Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Shannon and this is Shannon's Book Nook. And today we're going to be talking about all of the books that I read in, I almost said May, June. I can't believe it's already the end of June. It's going to be July in a few days. Before we get into the wrap up, I got to apologize for my voice because I have been sick the last few days and I thought it was just a sinus infection. It got really bad Sunday. Sunday was a rough day. My ears hurt, my eyes hurt, my teeth hurt, like everything because of all of the sinus pressure. I made a doctor's appointment and I went on Monday afternoon and I was like, I'm pretty sure it's just a sinus infection. But let's go ahead and test for flu and COVID just in case. And to my shock and surprise, it came back positive for COVID. So I was also surprised because they said, we're no longer quarantining. Just anytime you go out, make sure you just wear a mask. What? No wonder I got sick. I have no idea where I got it from. Because if that's what doctors are telling people who have COVID now, and I really don't know where I got it from because I've been home most of the time. The only time I've gone is to my part-time job, which is probably where I got it from because I'm a tutor. So that's probably where I got it from. But anyways, let's get into all the books that I read for June. All right, to start, I read 12 books this month. I am still currently reading 2 books that I do anticipate finishing before the end of the month since I am filming this a little early. So this number could change. The amount of pages that I read was 3,745 pages. And I also keep track of how much time I am listening to the audiobooks because I do read quite a few. I do read with the help of quite a few audiobooks. So the time that I have is record breaking for this year. I did read several big chunky books with the help of audiobooks. So it was 148 hours. Yeah. And it was actually just over 148 hours. So to be exact, it's 148 hours, 25 minutes, and 18 seconds. Yes, I count down to the second. So yeah, that's a record for me this year. As far as like the format of the book that I read, I have 2 ebooks, 4 audiobooks, and 6 mixed media, which means that I read 6 books like a tandem read where I'm following along with a physical book or an ebook and I'm listening to the audiobook. If I say just plain audiobook, that means I didn't follow along with my eyes. I didn't have a copy of it. I just listened to the book. As far as ratings, my average rating is 3.71, which is not too bad. I have 3 5-star books, 1 4.5 stars, 3 4 stars, 3 3 stars, 2 2 stars, and 1 DNF. So that's all my stats. Let's get into what I read. Hold up. Wait a minute. Before we talk about what I actually read in the month, let's talk about what I didn't read in June. I have 2 books that were on my TBR list for the month that I did not get to, and I have no excuse for why I didn't pick these books up. The first one is Too Late by Colleen Hoover. I did start it. I got like 10 pages in and I'm liking it. I think I'm in a little bit of a slump. And I just was not wanting to pick this book up and read it with my eyes, especially the last, 4 or 5 days because I've been not feeling great. So I do plan on finishing it. I do plan on picking it back up. just not right now because I'm not in the mood. The other book, same situation, Gothic Hannah. Y'all, this book has been on my TBR before, and I just am not picking it up. Like, I don't know what it is. Maybe I need to hold on to it for spooky season because it does give spooky season vibes. So maybe I'll read it in like October and want to pick it up because of the vibes it's giving. But right now, like, I am not reaching for this book at all. And the thing about both of these books, they are both on my 24 in 2024 list, meaning that I really wanted to get 24 of these physical books read in the month of, or in the year of 2024. And these two are on there, and I don't want to pick them up. That's a problem. I don't know what I'm going to do. But like I said, I'm interested in both of them. I'm just not reaching for them right now. So hopefully in the future me will love them. Now let's get into what I read for June. All right, so the first book that I read was We Used to Live Here by Daniel Hurst. This is a thriller, more like a mystery, a murder mystery, because we find out in the prologue that a body has been found in this family's garden, and they have just moved into this house. Probably a few months before. And so the story starts to unfold, and we are trying to figure out who was killed and who did the killing. And I actually listened to the audiobook with a friend on we were taking a little road trip up to Waco to visit her family. And that was a lot of fun. It was a fun experience to read a book like that in the car together, because we would pause the book and we would look at each other and go, wait a second. And so there were things that she would notice that I wouldn't, and then there were things that I would notice and that she wouldn't. And so just being able to talk about it, and we threw out like a really unhinged theory about who we thought it was, and it ended up being correct, which kind of blew our minds but at the same time, like, does it make it predictable if we were able to predict what happened? I don't know. I ended up giving it 3 stars because the middle did lag a little bit for me. But overall, it was a pretty solid thriller, murder mystery. Recommend it. All right, so the second book that I read was Triple Sec by TJ Alexander. And this is a LGBTQIA plus romance. I actually read it on ebook because I had an arc of it sent to me by NetGalley. But then Atria sent me a physical copy of this book, which I'm super happy about because I'm glad to have a copy so I can keep it on my shelves. This is actually a book that features polyamory, which I don't read very much of. And I mean, I do read Why Choose, but I feel like polyamory is different than a Why Choose. And this book features Mel, who is a bartender at a hip cocktail lounge in Manhattan. And while she's working, she meets BB, who is in a relationship in an open marriage with Cade. Cade is non-binary. BB is possibly bisexual, maybe pansexual. I'm not quite sure on the terminology, so forgive me. But she meets Mel while she's working, and they kind of hit it off. And so her and Mel kind of start this relationship. And then we see the connection between BB and Mel. And Cade is kind of standoffish. And this is where my rating comes in, because Cade is different. And it's even stated in the book that they feel like they're different from other people. And I felt like Cade may have been autistic, but it was never said. There was no clear, yes or no. But in my mind, I picture Cade as being somebody who is autistic because their social skills are they act a little bit different. So, and I don't have a problem with that. Um, we get to see the evolution of the three. They're trying to figure things out. And Mel and Kate are trying to figure things out. Do they want to have a relationship? And is it going to be two separate relationships? Or are they going to be a throuple? Like trying to figure out the whole dynamic. It was fun watching that happen. I ended up giving this book a 4 stars. I enjoyed it and I highly recommend it. All right, my next book is called Dad Can't Know by Ava Marks. And this book was not for me at all. It's a novella. It is 229 pages. Maybe that's a little long for a novella. Maybe it's just a short story. But I struggled with this book. So this book features Callum and Robin. Um, Callum is Robin's dad's best friend. This is an age gap romance, kind of a forbidden taboo because Robin calls Callum Uncle Callum several times and a couple of times in spicy scenes. And that made me really uncomfortable. Look, I'm here for an age gap. I love age gap. I'm here for forbidden taboo. But when you're not blood related to somebody and you're having, you know what? Why are we using words like uncle? No, I can't. So yeah, I really struggled with this book. And then the other thing that kind of threw me for a loop, there was some kinky ASMR stuff going on that didn't quite work for me. I mean, I'm not kink shaming at all, but it just didn't work for me. And then the last kind of straw that was in the epilogue, and there is a surprise, and I don't like that at all. So I ended up giving this book a 2 star, and I quickly moved on to my next book. Then I read Delilah Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. Look, I loved this book. I love Delilah. Delilah is a mess and she needs therapy. She kind of becomes the scapegoat for her stepmother. And her stepsister Astrid is getting married. And Astrid asks Delilah to be her photographer. Well, Delilah is very good at her job. But she does not want to go back to her hometown at all. Her stepsister and stepmother finally convince her to come back because with, the influence of money and putting her name out there. So Delilah does. She comes back and she's a photographer for her stepsisters. All the stuff leading up to the wedding. Okay. Now there are a lot of things that go wrong, and Delilah ends up taking the blame for a lot of things. But she ends up reconnecting with Claire, who is one of Astrid's best friends and bridesmaids. Claire doesn't remember what Delilah looks like, because Delilah's been gone for the last, 7-10 years. So when Delilah shows back up in town, Claire hits on her at the bar. Delilah remembers who she is. Claire doesn't. Their relationship is super cute. I really, really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4.5 stars. I highly recommend this. It was so good. And then I read Salt Kiss by Sierra Simone, which is book 1 in a new series that she is working on. Book 2 just recently came out, and I'm excited to read that one very soon. Salt Kiss is a male-male romance to begin with. And it is a Tristan and Isolde retelling. And in this book, we have Tristan, who is a bodyguard for Mark. Mark is a crime boss, and he needs protection from his enemies. And so Tristan, Mark is also the owner of a sexy club. And Tristan is innocent in the beginning. Tristan is innocent. And while he's working at this club, he sees a lot of things. And he becomes curious about a lot of things. And Mark is happy to show Tristan the ropes. Quite literally. So when Mark's bride-to-be needs to be safely transported from Ireland, Mark sends his trusty bodyguard, Tristan, to go pick up Isolde. And so the first, half of the book follows Mark and Tristan's relationship. And then the last, 40-ish percent kind of follows Tristan and Isolde. The ending had my jaw hanging on the floor. I should have seen it coming. I should have, but I was just so enraptured by everything going on, I didn't even notice something was suspect. I loved this book. This book got a 4 stars from me. All right, so then I read my book club books. And oh my gosh, was this a beast to get through. So I'm going to actually talk about books 2 and 3 at the same time, because for book club, we did read both of these bricks. We read Glow of the Everflame, which is book 2 in the Kendrick Hurst saga, and book 3 in the same series. Now, obviously, I can't talk a lot about what's going on in book 2 and 3 because it's going to spoil what's happening. There will be no spoilers in my wrap-up. So, the Kendrick Hurst saga follows Diem Bellator. She is a mortal, and she is living in the mortal city where they are not treated well by the descendants. Now, descendants are like demigods, and they're on the continent of Emerion. There are 9. Oh goodness, let me double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, I was right. 9 different kingdoms. Now so that means there's 9 different crowns, 9 different types of descended, 9 different types of magic. Now I will say in the beginning it was hard to keep track of all of the different magic systems going on, but oh my god. When I got into this series, like book 1 is good in my opinion. Some people think it's just okay and they're like push through. I thought book 1 was good. Book 2 and 3 just bump it up to a whole nother level. And there were several times where I had to stop and just go, what just happened? There were times where I was crying multiple times. There were times where I was angry texting my group members who I knew had finished book 2 and 3, and I was like, what the heck is going on? Help me. I don't think I can read anymore. I did have to pause because my anxiety, this is epic high fantasy, I feel like, because there's a lot of action. Um, and I would have to pause because my anxiety would be so ramped up that I was like, oh my God. I gave both of these books 5 stars. And book 4 is coming out at the end of July, and I cannot wait. Miss Penn, I am a fan. All right, the next book I read was You and I Rewritten by Pons. This is another one of my pride reads. It follows Will, who is starting over in life at a new company across the country in New York. He's living with his best friend, and he meets the boss at the new publishing company. Will meets Graham, and they kind of hit it off right away. Now, Will has a complicated relationship with his birth father, and some things kind of come to light in this new relationship that Will has to work on because of the things that he has experienced with his birth father. Now, I will say there are trigger warnings for alcoholism, addiction, grief, parental abandonment. So there are some things that you might want to, check the other triggers because I didn't list everything. I really loved watching Will grow, and it broke my heart when we started finding everything out. I cried for Will, but Graham was so understanding and so patient and kind and compassionate. He supported Will through that tough time, and just having somebody, knowing somebody is there for you when you're going through it. This book was amazing. I ended up giving it 4 stars. Really enjoyed it and highly recommend it. All right, so the next book I read was Love at 350 Degrees by Lisa Pierce. This is another one of my Pride Month reads. And while I enjoyed myself with this book, I was a little disappointed because I felt like this was marketed as a romance book when the romance is more of a background. It's like a subplot. It's not even really featured in the book. This is more of a chick lit women's fiction book, which I would have been totally fine with if I had known that going in. But because it's marketed as a romance, I was very disappointed. So Kendra, excuse me, Kendra is a judge and Tori is a contestant on this baking show. And they don't really interact very much due to the rules of the baking show, except for, when Tori is cooking something and Kendra has to judge it. But they do write like little short notes back and forth for a little bit, kind of cute little notes of encouragement and whatnot. But the only time we really see them interact outside of the show is when some drama goes down and Kendra asks Tori to meet her at her restaurant because she wants to tell her what's going on. Even at the end of the story, we don't get to see them together very much. Like, we know that they're going to try in a relationship, but that's it. So yeah, I was a little disappointed. I gave this one 3 stars. All right, and then I read All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. Look, she is supposedly the queen of slow burns, and I completely agree. Look, I have not read a book by her yet. This is the first one that I've read, and I actually got it as an arc from Neck Alley. If that tells you how behind I am on arcs, my bad. I'm sorry. I'm trying to catch up. But this book has me in a chokehold. Okay. It's another one of my 5-star reads. Loved it, loved it, loved it. This was a book that I didn't know I needed. And even though it's a romance sitting at just over 600 pages, which in my mind is a little long, no, it works for this one. I Aurora had me cackling at, her experiences of her trying to figure things out in the Colorado wilderness had me laughing so hard. And then Rhodes, he's a grumpy guy in the beginning, but you find out why he's grumpy. And I don't know. Everything, it worked for me. We have the grumpy sunshine trope. We have the single dad, which this single dad is not your typical single dad, which I loved that little twist on that trope. That was fun. We also have a slow burn, found family, and a small town. So, was this book perfect? No. But honestly, I was all in my feels, and the vibes were giving. A couple of things that I really struggled with, but I was choosing to overlook when I rated this book. Um, the first thing with the pet names. Look, I am okay with the pet name of Angel. When he would call her Angel, I thought it was cute. But the one that kind of, it was an interesting choice, was Buddy. Every time he would say Buddy, I'm like, okay, it's a choice. The second thing that I had a trouble with, now this might or might not be a spoiler. So if you don't want to hear it, fast forward like 15 seconds. So there's a pregnancy in the epilogue, but the reason I'm overlooking this is because there's a conversation that happens earlier in the book about it. Okay, spoiler done. We're good. You're safe. So those are the only things that I'm really overlooking. And honestly, I overlooked them because I just enjoyed this book too much. 5 stars. Well done. Next up, we have In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune. I'm so mad because I cannot get this sticker off. I'm going to have to get something to get it off. Anyways, I was so disappointed in this book. I absolutely loved The House in the Cerulean Seas by the same author. Loved it. Gave it 5 stars. Now, after the fact, I learned that there was some problematic stuff going on with it. But In the Lives of Puppets, when I read the synopsis, I was like, this is a Pinocchio retelling. I'm not really that big of a fan of Pinocchio. And then I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to enjoy this book. I don't think this doesn't sound like a book for me. But because of the author, I wanted to read it. And then a friend, for my 12 books recommended by 12 friends at the beginning of the year, she put this on my list. And I was like, okay, that's my sign. I'll just go ahead and try it. Get out of my comfort zone. It's a sci-fi. I don't read a lot of sci-fi, but the ones that I do read, I tend to enjoy. This one, no. I should have trusted my instincts. I ended up giving this one 2 stars, which, I mean, it's a Pinocchio retelling with elements of The Wizard of Oz with droids. This was not a book for me, and I should have known that, and I should have trusted my instincts and not wasted my time, because that's what I feel like. There were a lot of the robots made a lot of sexual innuendos and a lot of sexual jokes that at the beginning were funny, but became old real quick. And I did not like that after a while. And this book just, it's so slow. I, sorry, I couldn't get into it. If you like this book, I'm happy for you, but oh my gosh, I struggled through this whole thing. And lastly, we have Leather and Lark by Brynne Weaver. This is a new release, as in, like, this book came out on June 4th, so earlier this month. This is the second book in the Ruinous Love Trilogy, which is the Butcher and Blackbird book that came out in January. I loved Butcher and Blackbird. I gave it 5 stars, but book 2, Leather and Lark, it fell a little flat for me. I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was okay, which when I give a romance book a 3 stars, it's different from when I give a thriller 3 stars. Like with a romance, when I give it 3 stars, it was okay. And that makes it hard to talk about because there were, it was okay. But Leather and Lark follows Lachlan Kane, who we meet in the first book. He is the brother to Rowan, and Lark is Sloane's best friend. And you know what? When I was reading Butcher and Blackbird, I was like, ooh, I really hope we get a book about Lachlan and Lark, because you could already see some things happening in the first book. And then it happened, and now I'm disappointed. And now I know who's going to be the in the third book, the couple in the third book. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I'm kind of intrigued. But now I'm like, I don't know. So Lark is a singer songwriter. She, and I will say that in the audiobook, the narrator that plays the female, she can sing. I think she did a really good job singing parts of the songs that were featured in the book. Um, Let me talk real quick about the audiobook though. And I think that's why I didn't really enjoy this book as much this time around. There were some sound effects that were happening that took me out of the story. Instead of putting me in the story more, it was taking me out. Especially the laughing. It was like nails on a chalkboard after a while. It was so cringe. So the audiobook may not be the route to go on book 2. Book 1, absolutely read the audiobook or read with the audiobook. Book 2, skip it. Skip it. I don't know. It took me out of the story every single time. I enjoyed the build up between Lark and Lachlan. That was cute. Lark has some trauma. So be sure to check those trigger warnings. They are at the beginning of the book. Check. This is a dark romance, dark rom-com to be exact. There are some funny things that happen, but yeah, 3 stars for me. All right, so before I wrap this up, I do want to talk about the 2 books that I am currently reading. The first one is an audiobook that I'm kind of jumping in and out of when I'm working on a puzzle or diamond painting or happy color on my iPad. So the first one is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. I've heard a lot of good things about this book and I was intrigued. And I am only about 20% into this book, and I have a feeling that we're going to be talking about all the different family members that have killed somebody, and I am intrigued. I'm having a lot of fun with this one. So we will see. I do like how the book is basically talking to you as the reader. I'm listening to it, so the narrator, it sounds like they're like giving me the down low on the family tea. I do like that. The other book that I am reading is The Undermining of Twyla and Frank by Megan Bannen. This is book 2 in the Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. Now, if you watched my mid-year freakout, you know that the Undertaking of Heart and Mercy was one of my most disappointing reads of the year so far. I am also struggling with book 2. I have been reading it for about 2-3 days now, and I'm only 10% into it. So I really think it's a writing style that is not working for me, which means that book 2, I want to give it a little bit longer because it's only 10%. I want to give it to like the 20-25% mark before I make a decision, but it's looking like it's going to be a DNF, but we'll see. Maybe I'll change my mind. So that's it. That is my June wrap up. And let's see if I can get this up here. Here's my stack of books that I read. And I am proud of this stack, especially because 2 of these physical books are huge. They're chunkers. So, and then a couple of the ebooks were pretty big as well. So I'm proud of myself for this month. 12 books, pretty solid. Well, I appreciate you sticking around for this long. If you like the video, please like if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to. If you want to find me on Goodreads or Instagram, there's a link in my description. Thanks so much. If you want to leave me a comment on what your favorite book of the month is, or if you just want to let me know that you were here, leave me a drink emoji. I will see you next time, guys. Bye.